Congressman Mark Harris of North Carolina. 8. Congressman, nice to see you today. Let's start with what's going on in Iran. The president has kept very calm despite exchanges back and forth between Iran and Israel, and some defensive strikes is what the United States is calling, taking out some missile batteries and other military equipment. Where are we with Iran right now, do you think? Best guess?
Well, that's a great question, Steve, and thank you for having me this afternoon. When you look at where we are with Iran, I think there's no question that President Trump is trying to get to a diplomatic solution as best he can. We've all known that the situation over there is tenuous at best. And when you stop and think about the fact that who are we really negotiating with? Because you've got the Revolutionary Guard that it seems to be in control at a certain level, and they don't want an end to this. You've got the governmental officials that seem to try to want to find some way out of it and are working in negotiations. And then you have the situation like just occurred with our Apache helicopter getting shot down by a drone, and thank God those pilots were safe and were recovered. But I think President Trump's patience, when things like that happen, they're going to wear extremely thin. But I think, again, he's trying to get to a diplomatic end. He's trying to make sure, what we've said from the beginning, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, period. And that dust has got to come out, and we've got to recover that 900 pounds of enriched uranium. And number 2, the Strait of Hormuz has got to be opened back for business and folks to be able to move freely in and through that strait. And Iran can't charge tolls or make threats or those other things. So those 2 things seem to be the most critical at this moment. But I do think that obviously it's dangerous because you don't really know who you're negotiating with and who's ordering these actions that Iran is pulling out.
That's exactly right. You don't know who you're dealing with or negotiating with. And we'll keep an eye on that as we have for days. I do want to shift gears. You were in this hearing with the Southern Poverty Law Center director. The Southern Poverty Law Center, in my estimation, for 25 years has been discredited. Anybody to the right of Bernie Sanders, I mentioned in the monologue, got labeled as a hate group. And yet, they don't have one anti-Semitic group on there. There's not one Muslim group on there. It's interesting. They target Christians. They target Moms for Liberty. You were in there. Was it enlightening?
It was enlightening, and it was really a good opportunity for the leader of this SPLC, the interim leader, if you will, who took this position last July. And the question was raised, did you think you were put in this position because this investigation was heating up and that we may very well come to a place that we were going to see these charges ultimately come? Obviously, he gave a lot of pat answers. He didn't, quote unquote, plead the fifth, but at the same time, he had a pat answer that he used probably at least a dozen to 24 times, 24 times, and that is that he was not going to address any of the issues that the attorneys would be doing the response to the charges that had been brought. And he would just always kind of reflect back to that. But I think the thing that came out, and I think if folks look at this, it is enlightening because these hate maps that they have created, to your point, are targeting these conservative groups, just like Family Research Council. And during my questioning, I actually showed this guy a video of the man that had come into Family Research Council in 2012 and to shoot up the place. He had intended to kill a number of people. He wasn't able to accomplish it because a brave guard there named Leo actually tackled the guy. Leo got shot in the arm in the process, but through it all, this guy's intention, he said on video, was to come into Family Research Council, whom he had learned about, Steve, through the SPLC. When he looked at their hate map, he didn't even know about Family Research Council until that time that he saw them on a hate map and determined he was going to go in and shoot up the place and kill the folks that work there. I played that video of his confession to that point for this guy, and I asked him, is this the first time you've ever seen this video? And he said, yes, it was. And I'm astounded at just what they're able to do. But they are affecting, as you said, Moms for Liberty. They're affecting people in real life. real life.
Yeah. They are, and that narrative of this is a hate group, this is an oppressor, this is the oppressed, it just ripples through our society. In fact, we're sitting here waiting for the verdict that has been reached in the murder trial of Carmelo Anthony, who stabbed another classmate, a 17-year-old white student, Austin Metcalf. He died trying for self-defense, acquittal in this. I don't see that happening. Have you followed this case at all? What's your opinion?
Well, I've not followed it very closely, to be honest with you. We've been wrapped up with lots of things here in Washington since this thing went to trial. I remember after it first happened that it certainly is a tragedy of mammoth proportion. I think they've tried to make it clear that this was not a racial issue ultimately that was taking place. And I think that the leaders in that community are wise to try to work through this. So that it doesn't get out of hand. But I do think that the wheels of justice are going to turn and need to turn, and then ultimately this verdict will come down. But it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the young man who did the stabbing that has ruined his life, and certainly a tragedy for the young man who was stabbed and lost his life, and for his family that'll never have him there with them again. It's just a tragedy of mammoth proportion is all I can say to it at this point.
Real quickly, I want to circle back to the SPLC before I let you go, because I want to ask you one more thing. 11 members of Congress made the hate map. 11 members of Congress. Do you think that Graham Plattner, if he were to be elected to the United States Senate, would make the hate map for having a Totenkopf Nazi tattoo on his chest for 18 years? Or would the SPLC just brush past that?
I got to tell you.
Kind of rhetorical, but not exactly.
I think it's a great question, because I had a colleague of mine, Congressman Russell Fry from South Carolina, who actually went down that line of questioning. And he asked the leader of the SPLC about, did they consider the Nazi symbol to be a hate, would make somebody make the list of a hate group? And he said, well, yes. And then he kept going down the different things and was describing Graham and what he has been doing. And the guy just played ignorant, acted like he didn't really know what he was talking about or where he was going with that line of questioning. But I have no doubt they would have looked over Graham Plattner's problems, because he doesn't fit the narrative of the people that they want to attack and that they want to destroy.
Graham Plattner is a sad commentary on the state of the Democrat Party. I'll just say that and leave it there, Congressman. It's always good to see you, my friend.
It's always good to see you, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.